Well, math and your study of symbolism and geometry is going to tell you the egg came first. The egg came first.
So, it's the age-old question. What came first, the chicken or the egg? Of course, this comes right from Wikipedia, so if you ever want the standard propaganda that they feed everybody, well, Wikipedia is a good place to start. The chicken or the egg is a casualty dilemma is commonly stated as the question, which came first, the chicken or the egg? The dilemma stems from the observation that all chickens hatch from eggs, and all chicken eggs are laid by chickens. So you have this sort of recursive thing going on. Chicken and egg is a metaphoric adjective describing situations where it is not clear which of the two events should be considered to the cause and which should be considered the effect, to express a scenario of infinite regress. That's what it is. This riddle launches us right into the heart of symbolism, to the very first instances of creation, and make you think, okay, what happened there? What did come first? Was there a chicken or an egg? And what this, once, like I said, this launches you into the potency of symbolism, the mysteries of everything, as well as the creation of the universe. And what we're going to see is that mankind is a reflection of the creation of the universe. The genesis of all creation is reflected in the genesis of man. There's this whole notion that in the beginning of the world, there was an egg. Now, there's a lot of cultures that have this, okay? This is, it's Genesis, or I don't know, the first few verses of Genesis or something like that, written on an egg. Written on an egg. Not written on a chicken, mind you. Why? Well, we'll see. There's a ton of different religions and myths and stuff like that that show the creation of the universe, and they give it an egg. The second creation was water, blah, blah, which filled the lower half of the egg. So, in other words, creation is an egg, and there's a top or an upper half, which would be the firmament or dome, and then there's like a bottom, whatever, that's in house, and this is an egg. The Zoroastrian mythology, for some reason, the creation of the world is not a chicken, it's an egg. Vedic mythology, the earliest idea of egg-shaped cosmos comes from some of the Sanskrit scriptures. The Sanskrit's term for it is Brahmanda, Brahma meaning cosmos, Anda meaning egg. The Vedas thus detail the creation of the world. In the beginning, there was a single God existing of himself, who, after having passed an eternity absorbed in the contemplation of his own being, desired to manifest his perfections outwardly of himself, and created the matter of the world. The four elements being thus produced, earth, air, water, and fire, but still mingled in confusion, he breathed upon the waters, which swelled up into an immense ball in the shape of an egg. So there's the Vedas, same thing. Polynesian mythology. All existence began inside an egg-like shell called the rumia. The world egg, cosmic egg, or mundane egg is a mythological motif found in the cosmogonies of many cultures that descends from the Proto-Indo-European culture. Typically, the world egg is a beginning of some sorts, and the universe or some primordial being comes into existence by hatching from the egg, sometimes laying on the primordial waters of the earth. One egg's lower half transformed and became the earth below, and its upper half transmuted and became the sky above. From the yolk, the sun was made. From the yolk, the sun was made, light of day to shine upon us. From the white, the moon was formed, light of night to gleam above us. All the colored brighter bits rose to be the stars of heaven, and the darker crumbs changed into the sky, clouds and cloudlets in the sky, etc., etc. So once again, Finnish mythology. There's an egg, egg-shaped cosmos. The Greek mythologies, there's the Orphic egg in the Orphic tradition, the cosmic egg, this Phanes, which is the god of light, emerged from this egg. Many threads of earlier myths are apparent in the new tradition. Phanes was believed to be hatched from the world egg, or Chronos, time. All of that born from a cosmic egg. The sun god Ra was born from a primordial or primeval egg in a stage known as the first occasion, etc., etc. Let's look at some of the qualities of the egg, of the symbol of the egg, right? Once again, just like in that Finnish mythology there, it says, one egg's lower half transformed and became the earth below, and its upper half transmuted and became the sky above. So therefore you have that bottom and top. One egg's lower half transformed and became the earth below, and its upper half transmuted and became the sky above. From the yolk, the sun was made. What are they doing there? They're launching you into symbolism, the potency of symbolism. The yolk, okay, well, let's look inside the egg, okay? So within the egg, cased inside the egg, before we crack it, you have that golden light of the sun right there. That's what it's symbolic of. Surrounded by a clear fluid, right? Now, what is that? What is the egg? And that's called the yolk, right? The yolk of the egg. Then you look at the outside of the egg. What is it? It's white. What is the symbolism behind the color white? You guys tell me. Class is in session. You guys have to answer this. Purity, virginity. Yes, brain droppings, Carlin says. So here you have inside that egg, right? You have clear fluid, if you will, which could be construed as the waters. In this sense, you could consider it embryonic fluid, if you will, waters of creation. In the waters of creation, you have that sun. That sun is captured within the egg, and outside the egg is a shell. It's even called a shell that encases that egg, or encases the yolk, and that is white. It's purity. It's innocence, right? All of that symbolism is there in the egg. This is the first word of Genesis in Hebrew. It's called Bereshit, right? Hebrew for in the beginning. That's what Bereshit means, okay? So in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Okay, well, we already know, and once again, the first chapter of the book of Genesis written on an egg at the Israel Museum. Okay, so we have Genesis, the birth of all creation, written on an egg. Then the first word is in the beginning, okay? We're going to go into English here. I'm going to do this again, but in the beginning. Okay, we already know this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 letters, and 1, 2, 3 words. So we have in the beginning in English. So when we take this Bereshit and translate it into English, we have what? 3, 14. We're looking at pi. Bereshit means in the beginning. Now the first word, or the first letter in Hebrew, is the first word or the first letter in the Torah is B, okay? Now, B in Hebrew means house. So we have Bereshit, and this means in the beginning. And so we know that English translation, we got 3:14. Now, the first letter is B, and B means house in Hebrew. What does a house do? It separates the in and the out. It separates the external and the internal. It separates what we can see as what is the material and the spiritual, if you will. Now, even in the Finnish mythology, let's go back here. Even in the Finnish mythology, it says what it does. It separates heaven and earth. One egg's lower half transformed and became the earth below, and its upper half transmuted and became the sky above. So the egg represents what? Above and below. Okay? So this is exactly what a house does. You have what? You have the inside and the outside. In and outside, right? What does the egg do? Same thing. Same thing. The egg with its shell separates what? The inside and the outside. In and out. If you crack the egg from the outside and there's something living in it, what happens? Chances are that chick or whatever is inside is going to die. But when the egg is cracked from the inside, that means life is born, and from the in cracks the out, and then you have the emerging of material creation. Okay? The house is what? In a sense, what is the house? Manufactured by man, right? So man put that house together so he could go inside and have his little comfort. What's the outside? Manufactured by God, right? The outside, the natural world is the out in this sense, manufactured by God. The in had to be manufactured by man. God and man, spirit and matter, heaven and earth, above and below. In and out, internal, external. The exact same things that are replete all throughout Genesis. Heaven and earth, without form and void, and yet there was light. So there was we have chaos and order, if you will. God divided the light from the darkness, light and darkness, heaven and earth, as day and night, the midst of the waters above, waters below. It's that evening and morning. I mean, etc., etc. Two great lights, one lesser light, one greater light. The same idea, okay? Now let's look at some of the etymology of yoke. Remember, the yoke is the representation of what? That sun, right? The golden light. A yoke, Y-O-L-K, is Old English for geoloka, whatever. It's yolk, literally the yellow part of the egg. But a yoke, Y-O-K-E, is to yoke or join together. It's like the yoke of a chain, right? So it's literally to bind, to hold together, to join together. Figurative sense of heavy burden, oppression, servitude was in Old English. So it was a yoke. It was this idea that you carried the yoke. It was a burden. It was just like the axe, the yoke that was tied around an oxen or an animal that was pulling something was a heavy burden from them. Well, what is that heavy burden? Well, that heavy burden is the yoke, the link that you have with God. Okay? It's a heavy burden. It's what's known as your covenant, your vow. In fact, I think Bereshit even is a reference, a subtle reference to this, but it's a covenant, a vow, or an agreement that you have with God. And that's a heavy burden. It really is. This is Atlas holding the world on his shoulders, right? Now, this idea of the yoke around your neck is used all over the New Testament. Here's just a few examples of Jesus talking about the yoke. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me. For I am meek and lowly in heart, and ye shall find rest in your souls. Chain yourself, bind yourself to me. Take it upon you. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light, he says. This in general sense, it's a heavy burden, but Jesus is saying, my yoke, not a heavy burden, right? Yoke and yoke, okay? Now, when we talk about yoke, as in this is that sun, that yellow sun that's in the egg of creation, okay? And this is your yoke. This is your chain. This is to bind, okay? This is what religion means. This is what religion means. Make sure I'm getting back here. Religion, religare, I think is how you say that, is the root, is the etymological root, if that's how you say that. Re means to do again, and ligare, which would be ligio, is a link, a chain to bind, okay? So via notion of a place and obligation or a bond between humans and gods. So there's that chain, that bond, that binding that happens. You are chained to God, and you are literally like linking yourself back to the first moments of creation in which God unleashed the entire universe. You're making that link back. Do that once again through a symbolism of the egg. What's inside that egg? That's the golden light of the Creator. It's the in and the out, etc., etc. This is why you have yoke and yoke. Why this is referring to. So religio is to relink, rechain, rebind, re-yoke yourself back to what? Okay? This is your egg yolk. Hence why, once again, not a weak connection at all when you see that every single one of these cultures, from Polynesian to Phoenician, or to Finnish, to the Vedic, to Zoroastrian, to Egypt, to Greek, everywhere they show this cosmic egg, this primordial or primeval egg. Genesis 1:1 in both English and Hebrew. Or what? You can put it on your hands. We just did it right here. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Boom. 10 words. You look at the original Hebrew, 7 words, 28 letters. 7 words, 28 letters. And that can fit right on your hands. So in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. That fits on your hands in English. Hey, we go to Hebrew and look at the same verse. What is that? Fits on your hands. 7 and 28. 7 and 28. 7 words. Hebrew Genesis 1:1 words and letters. 7 words, 28 letters. Okay? So let's watch this. And this is going to lead us right to the egg and our hands. And this comes from a lecture I did called The Mathematics of the Human Body. Let's watch.
What's more is that the day of ovulation can be found on the human hands as well. And this comes from mdhealth.com. And it says, how to determine the most fertile day. The first day of a woman's period is taken as the starting point of the cycle, and if the cycle is a 28-day cycle, then the 14th day after a period is estimated to be the ovulation, which means that the egg drops in a woman's reproductive period right between the number of digits of one's hands. 14 for the left and 14 for the right, and on the 14th day, the egg drops. Now, of course, ovulation does not always happen exactly 14 days after menstruation, but we can easily see and deduce that there is a fundamental template centered around human growth, and it is very clearly around the numbers 14 and 28, numbers found on your 2 hands.
So this comes directly from md-health.com. There's a bunch of other places that will show you the exact same information. Now, once again, is this exact every time? No, it's not. But what we do see is that there's a fundamental template that is within nature that all of this stuff moves through. So you get, essentially around that same, around these numbers is what you'll find. So the first day of a woman's period is taken as the starting point of the cycle. And if the cycle is a 28-day cycle, which for a lot of women it is, once again, these are averages and means, then the 14th day after a period is estimated to be the ovulation, which means what? The periodicity, a woman's period can be mapped on your two hands. Now, why is this important? Because it's that cycle that when you impregnate a woman, it's based on that cycle, because the sperm has to enter the egg and the egg has to drop at a certain time. When does it drop? Well, we just said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Oh, the egg drops. Right between that cycle. Okay? So that is right on your hands. Yeah, we use periods to end our sentences too, exactly. That whole cycle is right on your hands. And what does that cycle lead to? In other words, you just put your hands out right in front of you, and what does it lead to? The menstruation cycle, which is the cycle which brings you into Earth. The egg is right between your hands. If we want to think mystically, the egg has always been there. Where's the damn chicken? There's no chicken. So we have 0 to 28 or 1 to 28 there. That's how many days? Well, right about 14th day. Look at that. You got the corpus, which means body, luteum. I don't know what that is, but you have the egg, ovulation. Boom, dropping on the 14th day. So in other words, if you want to get a woman pregnant and bring new life into this existence, in other words, if you want to have the genesis of a new child brought into this plane of existence, it's all based on what? Well, Genesis is telling you right there. Which version do I read? Do I read the English version or the Hebrew? Both. They're both telling you the same thing.